If you would have told me about this 10 years ago, I would have said this is the hokiest, corniest thing I've ever heard in my life. But I'm telling everybody in this room, what I'm about to share and teach you, you can teach to your kids, you can master it in 5 minutes or less, you can teach it to your kids in 5 minutes or less, and it's had the biggest impact on my professional and personal life, really in the last decade. I'm going to teach it to you right now. So a couple of years ago, I'm running this race called the Last Man Standing. I'm a runner. Here's the format of the race. It's a 4.2 mile loop. You have an hour to run it. If you finish the loop in under an hour, say 50 minutes, you get a 10-minute break because they line you up again at the top of the hour to run the loop again. And they repeat that process over and over until one person's left, the last man standing. The race can go on for days. So during my training, I did 10 training runs of 38 miles. And every time I got to 38 miles, I stopped. And I was like, okay, that's my limit, 38 miles. Not bad for a guy that's 54 years old. But that's not gonna get you very far in a race like this. Then I heard about a guy named Chad Wright, a Navy SEAL. I heard him on a podcast talking about how he took a guy that only ran 5 miles, was his longest run in his life, all the way to the finish line of a 100-mile race by having him repeat over and over, I will not quit, I will not quit, I will not quit. I said, that's impossible. I've been running my whole life. Nobody can show up at the starting line of a 100-mile run with 5 miles under their belt and run 100 miles. But this guy's a Navy SEAL on a very reputable podcast. I really doubt he's lying. So I cold call him, create your own luck. I get him on the phone, I tell him my problem. I'm stuck, 38 miles, that's my limit. He says, brother, I can solve this for you in 2 days. Now Chad is a guy from the deep woods of North Georgia. He's got a beard down to here like he's in ZZ Top. He's got tattoos all over his body and a look in his eye like he's seen some stuff in the military that nobody in this room wants to see. So he comes to my house the first day, and my friends are calling me up. I'm like, did you change your cadence? Are you eating differently? Like, what's the matter? What is he teaching you? I'm like, he hasn't said a word. He's just sitting in a chair in the corner of the room, stroking his beard, hysterically laughing. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, this is Chad Wright. And he's spooky. So we go to dinner that night. I'm like, this is the biggest waste of time ever. We go to dinner that night, and Chad says to me, brother, tomorrow we're gonna start our mission at 0500, but we're gonna meet downstairs at 4:45 a.m. to go over the game plan of the mission. I'm like, we're gonna talk for 15 minutes? That's the whole secret sauce? Okay, Chad. 4:45, we go down to the breakfast table. He says, brother, today we're going to do 3 things and 3 things only, man. And if you do these 3 things, man, you're going to shatter your 38 miles. He said, the first thing we're going to do is we're never going to give our pain a voice. I said, what does that mean, Chad? He says, man, I know it's going to be hard. I know you're going to say, I don't have enough experience. I'm not good at sales. I don't have what it takes to do this job. Or in my case, you're going to have blisters. It's going to be tiring. I know you're going to have those thoughts, but we're never going to speak them. Because once we speak those words, we give them power. If I ask you how you feel today, the only thing you're going to respond to me is outstanding. How do you feel?
Outstanding.
How do you feel?
Outstanding.
How do you feel?
Outstanding.
Number 2, we're never going to die in the chair. What does that mean, Chad? He says, no matter how hard it is, man, when we come back after these loops, we're never going to sit down in our chair and be like, this is too hard, man, I can't get a sale. We're never going to be like, it's too hard, I'm too tired, I quit. We're either going to exhaust every possible resource we have and we don't complete the mission, or we're going to be successful. And either one of those is okay if we empty the tank. But we're not going to come back in the chair and say, this is really hard, and quit. And number 3, every time we get back to our little chair over here, every loop that we say, no matter how hard it is, no matter how bad we feel, no matter how bad the environment is, sales, this, that, we're going to say something we're grateful for. Because, man, we're lucky to be here in Huntington Beach, and we're lucky to be out here being able to run. So I did those 3 things that day, and I shattered the 38 miles. Fast forward Fast forward, 30 days later, I'm at the start of the Hennepin 100-mile race. Chad Wright's running it with me. We get to mile 74 and I'm broken. I got hypothermia, freezing. I got 6 toenails floating around in my shoe, and the end is near. I mean, I'm now walking. So Chad's walking with me. And he says, Jess, man, I'm gonna tell you something about me, man, that nobody knows, man. I said, what's that, Chad? He said, it's a miracle, man. I never get tired. Come on, Chad, not now. Toenails, I'm freezing. I'm like, he said, no, man, I want you to say it. But I was so broken, I literally couldn't say it. It would be like the biggest lie ever. So I was like, Chad, that's not now. I never get tired, Chad. He says, man, I want you to say it like you mean it. Just, come on, man, say it like you mean it. I'm like, fine, Chad, I never get tired. He said, I'll tell you what, man, I'm gonna let you walk a quarter mile to the aid station. And when you get to the aid station, you tell them the miracle of Jesse and Chad, that we don't get tired. So we walk to the aid station, we stumble up in the aid station, we get there, and the nice gentleman and the volunteers there, they give me some soup, some pasta. I said, ma'am, sir, I'm Jesse. This is my friend Chad. This is gonna sound a little crazy, but we don't get tired. Chad and I don't get tired. Chad grabs me by the shirt like this and he goes, let's go. 75 miles. How do you feel? I feel outstanding, Chad. 77, 78 miles. How do you feel? Through the dark. I feel great, Chad. I feel outstanding. 80 miles, 82 miles through the woods. Chad and I, nobody else around. How do you feel? I feel outstanding. You tired? I don't get tired, Chad. 87, 88, 89 miles through the wilderness. 90 miles, 92 miles, 94 miles, all the way to the finish line of a 100-mile race. The words that you speak matter. The words that you speak matter. Remember what I said about my son? When he said, I can't get out of the car? They matter. When I was sleeping on those 18 different couches as a kid, I used to walk into my office every day and turn to my partner and say, we're millionaires. They just haven't paid us yet. We're millionaires. They just haven't paid us yet. How do you feel?
Outstanding.
No. How do you feel?
Outstanding.
How do you feel?
Outstanding.
I don't hear you guys, man. How do you feel?
Outstanding.
How do you feel?
Outstanding.
Now listen, we covered a lot. We talked about SIPs, social, intellectual, physical, purposeful, spiritual. We talked about pouring your soul into things. We talked about creating opportunities where the universe will reward you. It's not luck. You put yourself in that situation. We talked about complimenting, congratulating, and consoling, and getting into the lives of the people that are most important to create meaningful, deep and meaningful relationships. We talked about urgency and how 75% of our time's out the window. And we got to be diligent with the other 25%, doing more of what we love to do with the people we love to do them with. We talked about the power of the spoken word. The words that we speak matter. Be mindful this week of the people around you that say, I can't, I don't have what it takes, I don't have enough experience, I can't do this, Dad, I can't get out of the car. Be mindful of the words that they speak, because those words matter. But I want to share the most important thing of this side of the equation as it relates to entrepreneurship. So I told you guys that I beat my dad in checkers. What I didn't tell you is that when I played my dad, my dad didn't know who I was. So my dad was suffering from Alzheimer's. So I would sit for 24 hours at my parents' house waiting for 5 minutes of clarity from my dad. So about 7 months ago, I'm at my dad's house, and my dad out of nowhere says, Jess, son, you want to play checkers? Jesse, yeah, Dad, of course I'll play checkers. And I beat him. It wasn't fair, but I beat him. And while I had this moment of clarity with my dad, I'm like, what do you want to do, Dad? He said, son, I'll do whatever you want to do. I was like, you want to go in the swimming pool? My dad hadn't been in a swimming pool in 10 years. He's like, sure. I got my dad in the swimming pool. They surveyed the wealthiest families in America. And they asked them, what was their biggest regret in getting this? And overwhelmingly, every single one of them said giving up what they already had for what they wanted. They gave up what they already had for what they wanted. Don't give up what you already have for what you want, man. Don't give up what you already have for what you want. And as I was sitting with my dad, I'd never been close to death in my life. And I'm rotating. My dad was in hospice. I'm rotating around the clock with my brother and my 2 sisters and my mom, going in, holding my dad's hand. And as I'm sitting there, I had 2 thoughts that went through my head. The first thing is, as sad as this moment was, and man was it sad. As sad as this moment was, I was so happy that I had emptied my tank in this relationship, man. I poured my soul into this relationship. And when you empty the tank and you pour your soul into whatever you do, you don't have any regrets. And the second thing that I was thinking about was, my dad never had this. He never had this, man. But he mastered this. What I said in the beginning is, if you have $1 billion and your spirit is 0, 1 billion times 0 is 0. But if you have $1 and your spirit is 1 billion, $1 times 1 billion is 1 billion. And my dad was a spiritual billionaire. And when I think about the qualities that my dad had, character, compassion, generosity, and being kind to everybody. When I think of these qualities, they're not skills. My dad didn't go to the school of compassion. He didn't go to the character school. He went to the Brooklyn school. He didn't go to the generosity or kindness school. Those are attitudes that everybody in this room has. I guarantee you, man, and I'm just a realist, a lot of people aren't going to end up on this side of the equation with $1 billion. But everybody has these. It's just a matter of pulling them out. And if you do, you too will be a spiritual billionaire. Thank you.
Give it up, everybody. Stand up on your feet for the incredible Jesse Itzler. Give it up.